All right, I'm here with Coach Levi Nelson. Coach, good to have you here today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Coach. I appreciate it.
Yeah, looking forward to talking to you. The topic for what we're going to do today is on handling parents and parent issues. And I don't know if handling's the best word once I did that, but it's out now. But it's not, parents are an important part of your program, and we want to really have a course to teach people how are some ways they can do that better, because I don't know anybody, Coach, that's purposely messing this up, but I know a lot of people accidentally messing it up. And that's kind of where we are. So first, before we get started, tell anybody listening to this a little bit about you and how you got your start and how you got to where you are today.
Sure, Coach. My name's Levi Nelson, and my mission is to positively impact this world through love, effort, attitude, and discipline. I call it the LEAD philosophy, and that's what I'm trying to use my role as a high school football coach to do. I am just finishing my doctorate in sport and performance psychology. Started out as an assistant high school coach, did that for 5 years, and then kind of felt called to go out and seek my first head coaching job, where I was at Rittman High School for 4 years and had just now finished my second year at Field High School. So I've been a head coach for 6 years, an assistant 5 years before that. Have a couple of part-time gigs that are really fun. I get to teach a class called Coaching Football at the University of Akron, as well as serve as a trainer for the Positive Coaching Alliance, the PCA. So definitely appreciate you just having me on here today. And I think you hit the nail on the head as far as the title, Handling Parents. We're gonna reframe that a little bit to, maybe working with parents.
Yeah, I might change the course. Yeah. Let me make it.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Let me show you how a good coach does. Let me show you this. How about that?
There we go. I love it. Sign me up.
A good coach is always willing to change, always willing to move the plan, and if somebody has a better idea, they take it and steal it. So that's what I just did. So from now on, this will be working with parents, not handling parents. Good answer, Coach.
I appreciate that, Coach.
Yeah. So this is what I came up with. So I took about 10 courses, and this dealing with parents was kind of one of them. And I tried to really study it. I became an athletic director, then a district athletic director, and then an HR director, all within basically a year and a half or so. And so I was the AD before that, but made the transition. So once I quit coaching football, I did have a little more time, and I started kind of studying ways to help people, kind of like you're saying you do. And in this particular topic, this is what came up the most to me, okay, when I studied people that did it well. The best way to handle parents and work with parents is to be preemptive. So I think there's a ton of stuff we talk about working with parents before we get to the handling of parents. Handling infers they're mad or there's an issue. But when there's an issue, you had to have built the relationship before that issue. And so really anything we say in this course, I thought, dealt with that sentence. Like you had to be preemptive. You had to have a built-in relationship before you have to deal with a crucial conversation. Wouldn't you say, Coach?
Oh, absolutely, Coach. I adhere by that old saying, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And you and I think, could both agree that we get to work with a parent's most prized possession, right? We get to work with their children. So we're on the same team, right? We might have different ideas about what offense and defense to run, that kind of thing. But you're right. You got to get out ahead of this thing. And I kind of think of it like I shared with you. I'm finishing my doctorate right now in sports psychology, but Justin Verlander, he's going to give up a home run this year. It's not if he gives up a home run. So like you said, there's going to be issues, but it's when this happens, I need to have a system in place on to how to deal with that. So from a psychology standpoint, we help athletes develop what we call a mistake ritual, where you can maybe grab some dirt and throw it away, and that's you taking that mistake and throwing it away. But you're right. I mean, we need to be preemptive here. I love the old Doc Rivers story. If you haven't heard it, he's the head coach out there in LA for the Clippers. And they said, Coach, what are you best at in your coaching? And he kind of thought about it for a minute. He said, you know what? I'm an excellent communicator. And the reporter asked him a follow-up. He said, Coach, what's one thing you want to work on this upcoming season? And he said, my communication skills, right? It's making sure you're on the same page and just kind of, I'd rather be known as the coach who over communicates rather than the one who under communicates. So I think you hit the nail on the head in being preemptive with these parents and not reinventing the wheel here, but I think a great way to do that is with a preseason meeting, right? Where you can kind of get all the parents and coaches in the same room and share with them not only rules and procedures. In fact, I don't even like to use those words. I kind of like to use the word standard, right? These are the standards we're going to have in our program. But I like to share my mission, right? And I like to share with parents that, hey, man, winning ball games, that's my job. And I'm going to strive for that as hard as I can each and every day, but it's not my number one goal, right? It's never going to be my main focus. It's to use football to teach love, effort, attitude, and discipline. And that's what we're doing. Another great thing you can do at these preseason meetings, Coach, in my opinion, people love to help, but they just need to be asked, right? It's one of those things like, right. Yeah, right now, if I would do anything to help someone in this current crisis we're living in, but sometimes I don't know how to help, right? I don't know how to get involved. So when you can share with parents, hey, here are our fundraisers and here's where we need help. And, maybe one of my goals, Coach, is we feed the team at every practice, right? So we need parents to help with 2-a-day meals, and we need parents to help with, a game meal on Friday nights and, different fundraisers, this and that. And you can share with them, hey, here's our calendar. I think a coach needs to not give a calendar in June for the summer, but you got to be on top of those things. Those got to come out in January. Parents plan vacations, right? So it's nice if you can get out ahead and say, hey, this is our training camp. This is our 2-a-days. Please try not to miss this if possible. Another exercise, Coach, and like I shared with you, I don't know how you'll take this, but I was blown away when I read this. So one thing the Positive Coaching Alliance does at this preseason meeting, they give the parents an exercise, and they say, hey, here are some goals. I want you using 100 points to kind of spread your points around. Where would you put your goals for your son or daughter playing the sport? And those goals are, become a good athlete, learn how to play the sport, learn teamwork, win, gain self-confidence, learn how to deal with defeat, physical fitness, learn life lessons, have fun, make friends, earn a scholarship, become a starter. And you can change those however you want. But what we've kind of come to find out is a lot of times these parents sitting, far away from the season in May, they say, man, I want my kid to learn self-confidence. I want my kid how to, learn life lessons through sport. I want them to learn about, sportsmanship. And then on Friday night, it's those same parents, who are yelling at me because I'm a big dummy who is calling the wrong play. So anyway, I just think that's a great way to kind of get ahead of things, of saying, okay, if these are your goals for your son or daughter, right? How do your actions then always align with those goals? So it's just nice to kind of get them to think with the end in mind. Simon Sinek says back in May of, oh, okay, yeah, this is the role of a high school sport. This is the role of a high school coach. And this guy looks like he wants to win, and we're going to try to support him in that endeavor.
Yeah, Coach, that is awesome. I'm tell you what, you're spot on with this stuff. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch this and take some notes when I'm not trying to maneuver all this. But this is spot on. And I just thought so many things in working with parents. It's kind of the same as working with administration or with other sports. they all kind of have the same mantra, which is you got to be preemptive. You got to build those relationships. You got to have already told them, hey, we're doing this. You got to communicate. You got to promote. It's the same stuff. But we kind of picked out these 5 things that we kind of felt like fit, everything into the ways you could be preemptive, because it's easy for me to say that and for you to say it. And it's really hard to sometimes do it. Like I said, I don't feel like people are messing this up on purpose. I don't think people are just not doing it. They don't care about it. They're just accidentally not building that relationship with that parent until they walk in wanting to talk about that playing time, and you don't have a great relationship to tell this parent something they don't want to hear. And so talk about what you guys do up there in Ohio to build relationships. And we can take these one by one if you want, or you can answer them all at the same time. But these are 5 ways I came up with to be preemptive. And then what do you think about each one, or if you even have some more?
Yeah, Coach, great question. And I agree with all these qualities. One thing, as you were talking, I just kind of remembered we also do at our preseason meeting is, and this was based off a great book by Joe. What they do is they have each parent sign a code of conduct for how he or she is going to behave in the stands, right? And what I like to do, and this is also a Joe Ehrman thing, is he provides the parents with a coach's code of conduct. So it's, hey, if I'm going to ask, and all players sign a code of conduct as well. So if we're going to have the players sign a code of conduct, the parents need to do it, and the coaches also need to do it. So that's just one thing. We try to build up instead of tear down within our program, and we don't curse, and we promote these things. And I think parents like to know that. Another thing that's been pretty popular with us is, each coach, or each school rather, has a slogan, at the beginning of each year, and they might put it on a T-shirt, or we do the same thing every year, and it's a T-shirt. It just says "Together" on the front. And I absolutely love that, because it applies to high school sports, because as you know, it's not just the players. They need the coaches, and the coaches need the parents, because we only have these guys for 2.5 hours a day, right? If we're lucky. And we're trying to build in offense, defense, special teams, strength training, all that stuff. And the parents need to be on board with us, because if that kid's sitting at the dinner table and the parents are saying that coach is a big dummy, and then he goes back to practice. Now, who's the kid going to listen to? He's going to listen to mom and dad. So we need to make sure we're aligned and working together on these things. But the shirt just says "Together," and it applies to, small business within our community and the administration. And it's pretty cool to look up on a Friday night and everybody just wearing that same message of together. I absolutely love that. I think that's one thing that's been pretty, I don't know, I think it works for us. The other thing we do to work with parents is we have what's called a player development system, Coach. I actually wrote an article with this for your website, but
Yep.
I love that you can show a parent that, hey, I've got a playbook for offense and defense, but we also have a playbook on how we teach these qualities of love, effort, attitude, and discipline. And if your son or daughter come to us as a freshman and they leave as a senior, they're going to learn all these things throughout their time with us. And I think that's one thing that, as you know, the best recruiters within your system are the players, right? The players, I can see a kid in the hallway and constantly tell him, you should play football, but he's going to listen to his friend more than he is, an old guy like myself. So we need the parents to also be good recruiters for us. And I just think this is a way to do that. I had one more thing and I just forgot. Gosh, I hope I remember it here in a second, of just a way to work with parents. If I remember, Coach, I will shine in.
Yeah, bring it back up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Things that stood out to me were just everything's about the relationship. So I think building relationships is always number one on any of these kind of lists. And there's so many different ways you can do that. And, you got to be yourself. But I think being honest with these people, talking about being preemptive and dealing with people, I've always felt like being honest. If there was sometimes in March or April or May, it is easier to have a dishonest conversation with a kid than it is to have an honest one, meaning you're not going to play a game for 4 or 5 months before he knows he's not going to get to play. Listen, I would bring guys in and tell them, look, this is where we see you now, and I am praying that you're going to prove me wrong. I would
Yeah.
love it if I was wrong, but here's where we see you. So where do you see yourself and whatever? Well, I didn't always do that with a parent. I would actually never do that with a parent, but I would talk to their kids. And when then, sometimes 4 and 5 months later, it pays off. A story I've told many times is I met with every kid a few times a year. So I would meet with the kid, and we try to do a lot of the same stuff I've read in what you do with your lead principal. And we met with every kid. And if you were a 10th grader, you basically got the same spiel, which is sophomore year is kind of tough. It's going to be rough. You're going to think you're a little bit older than, you're not a freshman anymore, but you're not a senior. You're going to probably struggle. You're going to be close enough to playing on the varsity, but probably just kind of in practice, not really in the game. And there's just a lot of stuff about 10th grade that's really hard in football. And so I would tell these kids this in a January meeting. I would tell them again in an April meeting. And then I would see a kid on the practice field in September do something where he's kind of down on himself, and I could go up to him and say, hey, bud, remember I told you 10th grade was going to be hard, and I just kind of laugh? And the kid would laugh. He'd be like, yeah, you did, coach. You're right. And I say that story in this sense of if you can put little nuggets out there ahead of time and just be honest with folks. Look, no, I don't know any coaches that are genuinely pulling against somebody to prove them wrong. I mean, we want somebody to go out there and be awesome and help our team win. But if they're struggling somewhere, ask them if they want to move positions. Talk to them about different things. Try to see that parent problem coming down the road. Be consistent. You can't say things like, I'm not going to talk about playing time unless you're my friend that goes out fishing with me, and then I guess I'll talk to you about playing time. There has to be some consistency there, and then obviously communication and promotion, which is a lot of the stuff you just said. So, Coach, I'm telling you, spot on with this. You're teaching me a lot.
Well,
Yeah.
Coach, I did think of the thing that I forgot early on. And one is at our preseason meeting, we like to tell parents that, hey, we'll talk to you about an issue. However, the first step is your son or daughter have to talk to their position coach themselves. And that teaches accountability with our young people. I think it's easy, to hide behind a screen and text, or I think it's easy to have mom and dad do it. But when they have to come in and say, hey, coach, why aren't I playing? It does teach a little bit of accountability. So I like to be upfront with them with that. The other thing is, and I love how you said promote good things. As you know, teachers are I love working with our teachers in our school, but sometimes I'll get an email about the football player who didn't do his homework, and I don't get that same email for every student, or we'll hear about what this football player did wrong and this and that. Promotion of good things. There's a book by Ken Blanchard called Whale Done. And if you haven't read it, it's a quick read, but it talks about how they used to train Shamu at SeaWorld. They'd put a rope underneath the water, and when the whale swims underneath the rope, nothing happens. But when it swims over the rope, good whale, and they give them a sardine or whatever the treat is. And they raise that rope continuously until it's out of the water. Same thing. He goes under the water. We don't do anything. He goes over the water. We're going to give you a sardine, and they continue to raise it up. They call it Whale Done. So the promotion of good things, when your students get an A on a test, or when they're elected to the homecoming court or student council, whatever it is, to share that information. I think that's good, because parents see that and they want their kids to be part of the program. But as you know, coaches are busy, and sometimes we wake up in the morning, yeah, I'd like to do that, and day gets ahead of us, and before you know, where did the day go? So I have what I call just a daily get-to list, and I print it out every weekend, and it's got Monday through the end of the week. I heard this on a coaching podcast, but not only does it have X's and O's and different things I need to do each day, but one is just promote something good about our program, right? So that could just find something of, man, this kid just got an A on his test, well done, put a picture of a Shamu or even on his helmet, something like that. But just not only promoting good things every now and then, but just making it a point, and maybe it's not every day. Maybe that's overkill, but maybe it's 3 times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whatever works for you. You have to be authentic to who you are. But I just think that's a good way to kind of be that consistent promotion of good things.
I couldn't agree more, Coach. I think every day's fine. I mean, there's so much stuff on social media and stuff. People scroll past it if they don't like it.
Yeah.
You got to think of this stuff kind of like a garden. You have to cultivate it all the time. And promoting good things is one of those things. You may have, when a kid was in the 9th grade, you may have taken a picture of all the kids that made all A's, or you may have given him, we gave out helmet stickers. You may have given him a helmet sticker for great effort in practice. You may have done something with the kid in the 9th grade that when he's in 11th grade, you still might get the benefit of the doubt from, in this case, we're talking about parents. That parent knows that this kid came home and always talked about how much they appreciated you and liked you. And this one time they're not getting to play, or they didn't get the position they wanted, or whatever it is that's frustrated them. They're giving you the benefit of the doubt because they know you care about their kid, because they've seen you promote their kid in other aspects. And
Yeah.
if they've forgotten that, because one of the things we talked to in the next slide, when a parent arises, if you notice, one of these things says promote the preemptive, meaning one of the things I always did when somebody was mad at me, I would say something like, hey, look, I like your kid's great. We think the world of him. He just is the 3rd best linebacker. It doesn't change that. It doesn't change that we put his name out there every chance we get. I always go talk to him. And if the kid's in there, I'll look at him and say, hey, do you feel like I always take care of you and stuff? And I feel like every kid I coach thinks I did. We still can only put 11 of them out there at a time. But you kind of remind them, hey, I'm always promoting your kid. I'm pushing you. Look what we're done for your kid. Because I think you do all that preemptive stuff because inevitably something does happen. And so that kind of segues to the next thing, Coach, which now, you've had your parent meeting. You've built your team culture, which a lot of things you're talking about also involved with culture, which I'd love to talk to you on a whole nother topic about that one day. So you put your team culture in place. You've had your meeting. Something's still going to happen. Let's not BS anybody. Like, something's still going to happen. So something happened, issue at practice, issue in the game. I don't know, somebody didn't play, whatever it is. Parents frustrated. They come to Coach Nelson. They want to talk to you, or however. How do you handle that?
Yeah, great question, Coach. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there of see it from their perspective. Again, having empathy, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. They're not at practice every day. They're hearing one side of the story, from their son. So keeping that in perspective, I think is huge. And just kind of staying even keeled, you got to tell yourself all the time, hey, you signed up for this, man. You signed up for it. Not everyone's going to run like the triple option like I do. Not everybody's going to agree on what defense to run. So kind of keeping that even keel. One thing that I like to do after the game is win, lose, or draw. We go down to the end zone and we give thanks and we, I talk to the team a little bit. But the team will go, I always end it with, hey, if you were lucky enough to have someone come support you tonight, go be with them right now. And so the players will walk off and they're with their parents and family, whatnot. And then the coaches, we kind of stay there and our families come to us. And that's a time for us just to not even talk about the game, which is hard to do, but just kind of maybe throw the ball with the kids and take some pictures with people maybe who came in to watch us play. And by that time, a lot of the people who were angry that we went for it on 4th and 1 or whatever, they've kind of left because I'm not waiting forever for this guy. But I've had those issues in the past where the parent barges in and they want to talk right now. And I think we can all agree that they want to win. I want to win. Maybe it didn't go our way that night, but discussing these things right now is not the best time. So it's, hey, would love to talk to you, tomorrow when things have kind of cooled down a little bit. Um, and in the past, we've actually had the athletic director attend those meetings as well. One thing that does, I said earlier, is we want the kid to talk to their position coach first, or in this case, it's, hey, give us, 12 hours on this thing before we have a conversation. It allows me to talk to the position coach. Hey, why wasn't Johnny playing? Right? Because as a head coach, I kind of believe in, hey, hire really good coaches and let them coach. I don't want to micromanage. And at the end of the day, I might interject here or there, but hey, those position coaches are with those guys all the time. And if he says this kid's better than the other kid, I'm going to trust in that. So um, I like to just to get on the same page with my position coach in those situations before I talk to parents. And I think sometimes, as much as you like to think you have your a handle on each situation, maybe there's something that you're not fully aware of as a head coach. So it's nice to have that little extra time.
Absolutely. And I think that, it's very important, first and foremost, to stay on an even keel, if that's the word, or whatever the word is. It's really easy to get emotional back when somebody's kind of emotional, and especially if they're frustrated, if it's right after the game. I always try to take the approach that if they want to talk to me, they need to make an appointment. I didn't
Yeah.
have a lot of tolerance for after the game stuff. But and then for the most part, I wasn't going to talk. It's just my thing. I'm not saying it's right for everybody, but I wasn't going to talk to them much about playing time or the scheme if they didn't like what me. I just wasn't going to talk. I just they either trusted us with their kid or they didn't. Now, if they thought we were doing something wrong with their kid or anything like that, then I would talk about that all day right now. But as far as playing time, I mean, you just had to have the attitude of, look, what reasoning on earth would we have? I had daughters and I coached football, so that helped. But I mean, what reasoning would I have? I'm not related to anybody on the team. Like, why would I not be trying to play the best ones? I mean, I would love it if your kid was so good that we had to play, and that would be great.
Mhm.
Why would I be against that? It's not what you think. But I think if you get frustrated back, you really kind of change. And I know you being a psychology guy or understand sports psychology, if you get frustrated back, you basically leveled the playing field again to now, if you can just say, look, I'm not going to hide from this issue. I will talk to you. I'll call them. You'll meet with them, whatever. And you tell them the fair and consistent policies. You see it from their point of view. Say, hey, if I was you, I see, because I said this to many people. If I were you, I would be mad at me. I understand why you think that, but you got to see where I sit too. What reason would we have again? Promote what you already have been doing, all the good things you've been doing that we talked about in the last part. And then I said, stay kind regardless. Look, I was never going to get frustrated. I just made it my mission. They could get as mad as they wanted to get, but it was just going to be, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. Yes, ma'am. No, sir. Whatever. And we just have to agree to disagree. Nothing positive comes out of getting frustrated. I mean, it just doesn't.
Absolutely, coach.
You know, if we got a few questions here, some of you kind of answered, but what is there anything else, some other things that you guys do in your program to promote positive parent relationships? Like, is there anything that you hadn't already brought up that you kind of wanted to hit on? I know you brought a bunch of stuff up, so you may hit it.
Yeah, no, and again, I'm not reinventing the wheel. One thing we had success with last year, we had our Women's 101 football clinic. You see a lot of colleges do that, and it was so fun, man. We had grandmas to Johnny's little sister, who was 4 years old out there, and just talking to them about, rules of the game, but then getting them out on the field and actually doing some drills, and our players were the assistant coaches that day, and it was just a great fundraiser to get some of the women in our program excited. We also do some traditions with our dads as far as the night before the first game, they'll come into the locker room and sticker their son's helmet. And if dad's not around, maybe it's an older brother or uncle or just an important male figure in their life. That's been a lot of fun for us. I've heard a ton of different, anecdotes out there, donuts with dad and, all those different things. But for us, we do the women's football clinic and we do the dads or significant male figure in the guy's life come in the night before the first game and stick her the helmet. That's been a pretty fun
That's
tradition.
pretty cool. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that one. That's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah.
So just anytime you can promote some positivity, and that's why I liked how we changed the name of this, because this is the first one of these talks on this topic I'm doing. But anytime we can just build positive relationships with parents, that's going to pay off later. Of course, part of this course is learning how to deal with the negative ones, but the answer really is going back. At that moment, you really can't do a ton about your relationship with that parent. But if you have built in a lot of things that you can do, so this is one of my favorite questions to ask people, because I just believe that you learn more from failure than success, and you learn more from losing than winning. And I hate it. You hate that, because you want to just win every game and learn your lessons that way, but it doesn't work that way. So what's in this particular topic, what is a time you feel like you made a mistake, or you handled something that if you had to do over again, you would handle it differently?
Coach, that's a great question. And it's not I don't have a great story for you, but the only thing I'll do is I'll take it back to the Doc Rivers quote of, what's one thing you'd like to work on this year? And he says, my communication. And there have been times, despite all of our efforts, where parents were upset because they feel like I had not communicated the proper way. And I can go back, hindsight's 2020, but sometimes you tell a kid something and it stops right there. He doesn't relay that information to his parents, or you give him a paper and say, hey, make sure you take this home. And then parents are calling you, I didn't know anything about this, and they're so upset. So I learned pretty early on of, okay, not all of our student athletes are going to go home and tell them what you told them to tell their parents, or they're not going to give that sheet home. So just making sure you can get a way to communicate to all of your parents. There's tons of apps out there now where you can just send one mass message out to everyone. But even that way, sometimes, parents, I wasn't on it, or I didn't know. So like I said, it's not a great story, but I do think that I learned pretty darn early of, you can't ask a 15-year-old kid to tell his parents that the cookie dough fundraiser money is due in 2 weeks. He's thinking about calculus or something else. So
Yeah, I just think that communication and relationships could be the answer to about any question we ever ask on any of these shows. And I think over communicating is probably a lesson I learned as well. I mean, I probably have a similar answer to what you have on that, but it's not. And what I love about sports is we don't get to say stuff like, well, I gave them the paper. Well, I told them, and that'd be good enough, even though, because we have to try to win. So because we got a scoreboard and one team's got more points than the other team, we don't really get those excuses to, like, we check the box and so it's not on us anymore. Like, I feel like, and I don't mean this ugly, but I feel like sometimes in teaching we get that. If we did our part and we said we did our part, then we can back off, throw our hands up, say, hey, we did it. We did what we were told to do. But if you're the football coach, you can't just give him a piece of paper and say, oh, well, I did my part. I told him about it. If the fundraiser doesn't work, that hurts your team.
yeah.
If they didn't show up to practice, that hurts your team. Whatever the paper was about, if they didn't do it, then you have less points than the other team maybe. And so you don't get to be lazy and say, hey, my bad, I told them. You have to over communicate. So I would, I guess, like you said, now, if you want to send a piece of paper home, if you want to tell a kid to tell their mom, still put it on Facebook, still put it on the remind, whatever it is you got. I would do too many of them as opposed to not enough, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the parents are going to go to that one quick. I used something earlier where I said I didn't talk about playing time. So over a long period of time at similar schools where they kind of know I'm not going to talk to them about playing time, well, then they want to come in and talk about everything but playing time, because so we can get to playing time,
Yeah.
and communication is one of those. They'll be like, well, we just don't communicate well. We don't tell them what they need to know. So if you can over communicate, that's always better than under communicating. So if people are tired of your message, if they're tired of you getting so many reminders about something, they'll get over it. That's better than the opposite, I promise. We'll get you out of here on this one, Coach. What advice do you have for an aspiring head coach? We ask this to both. We get ADs and coaches on this topic, but you're a head coach. You're in the Cleveland, Akron area. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're in that area, and, I know there's a lot of guys that football's big up there. There's a lot of guys that want to be the head football coach. My belief is, first and foremost, you don't know much about the job until you get it. Doesn't matter if you're 50 or 30 or anyone in between. But what is something they could be doing now? What is something that, several years ago, Coach Nelson should have been doing so he'd be more prepared now than he even is?
No, and Coach, yeah, here's what I would say. Number one, Tom McDaniels, a legend in this area, father of Josh McDaniels for the Patriots, but he was on a podcast once, and I really like this of, with his assistant coaches, he would give them their evaluation before the season started. And he said, we're going to have our evaluation at the end of the year. Here it is, right? And he'd give it to those assistant coaches. And he kind of talked in that podcast about, hey, maybe you consider yourself an offensive or defensive guy. That's your major. But there's no limit to how many minors you can have, right? And it's, hey, you need to take each offseason, each week, each day even, and just learn something about the game. That's only going to help you. So I kind of liked that. The one thing, like I said, I have that daily get-to list, and it's the constant, hey, you might not have an hour to work on football today, but, man, you've got 15 minutes, right? And if you can work 15 minutes every day, that's 105 minutes throughout the whole week. Times that times 4. I'm not a math guy, but I know that a little by little, a little becomes a lot. And finally, the last piece of advice I'd give is don't be too quick to take just any head coaching job. As much as I feel like sometimes, a guy might take that job and he's doing everything within his control. He can't control that he's got 26 kids on the team, right? He can't control that his strongest guy bench presses 145 pounds, whatever it is, and he's getting shellacked, and his record at the end of the year is 1-9 or whatever it is. Sometimes when you apply for the right job, administration will, and for better for worse, they're going to get that resume and say career record 5-45 or whatever it was. So I would just tell those guys, hey, if you can be a part of a winning program, if you can really sink your teeth into that job and be connected with a great program, and the right opportunity comes along, then, definitely take it. And you don't have to know everything. You'll learn once you get there, but don't put yourself in a position where there's, no coming back from it, because I've seen too many coaches, they just want to have the title of head coach, or, they want to, roll up their sleeves and get to work, but just kind of put themselves in a position where it's hard to come back from.
Absolutely, Coach. That was great advice. See the same thing happening everywhere. Very good advice there. So many times, just got to be patient, and it's easier to say sometimes. When I was fortunate, got jobs when I was younger, but if you don't want to be anywhere that doesn't want you, and you don't want to be anywhere that you can't really thrive and really trust your vision. So I wouldn't try to fool people in interviews. I also wouldn't get disappointed if they didn't hire you, because you don't want to be anywhere that doesn't want you. So, not much, waste a lot of energy getting disappointed in that. Coach, this has been great. I'll tell you what, I'm impressed. Except for all that Packer stuff in the back, we've been trying to recruit you down here to Georgia.
Go Bulldogs, baby.
Yeah. Hey, genuinely, Coach, appreciate you, and like to get you on some another time about some other stuff if possible.
Love the opportunity, Coach. Thanks for doing what you're doing, and keep chopping. Stay healthy down there.
Yes, sir. Y'all take care.
All right, you too.